and you'll see when we floor it, you see it takes a little while to get up to speed there. You see that? Today I'm testing out one of the world's most iconic supercars, the Nissan GT-R. I'm Matt DeBoer. I get behind the wheel of the hottest cars and test them in real-world scenarios. Today, I'm going to find out if the Nissan GT-R is a good daily driver. This is Real Reviews from Cars Insider. The GT-R is one of Nissan's fastest and most powerful machines, but the company likes to tout it as being an everyday supercar. So what I'm going to do is take it out, run some errands that I would typically run, and see if I can use this thing as a daily driver. But I'm going to kick it up a notch, because what I have here is the Nissan GT-R Nismo, a faster and more powerful version of the car. Let's see if we can tame this beast. I'm going to review it based on comfort, fuel economy, and storage. And then a little bit later, I'm going to pick up a couple of friends to see how the seating capacity is. All right, so let's talk specs for a second. The Nissan GT-R Nismo has a twin turbocharged V6 that makes 600 horsepower with 481 pound-feet of torque. There's a 6-speed dual clutch transmission that can run in automatic or manual mode, and it sends the power to an all-wheel drive system. Nissan gives you a lot of control over the handling of the car. There are 3 switches here, and you can throw them all up into R mode to max everything out. But what I'm going to do is throw the middle one down into comfort. That softens up the suspension, because I want to take it easy today while I'm running my errands on these suburban streets. Okay, here we are at our first stop, the grocery store. I'm going to pick up some provisions for the family in a supercar. Okay, now that we're on our way over to the hardware store, I have a little bit of time to talk about the Nissan GT-R Nismo as far as comfort and fuel economy are concerned. Let's start with comfort. We have it in comfort mode as far as the suspension is concerned, and it's really not that comfortable. This is a stiff car. It's a supercar. No one would expect it to be Buick soft. As far as fuel economy is concerned, we have about half a tank of gas in the car now. We haven't burned up that much fuel since we started rolling, but we're only getting about 11 miles per gallon, according to the car. And here we are. Let's go buy a chainsaw. I'll say one thing about this car. It is stupendously fun to drive and extremely easy and rather forgiving. Now, it has that reputation, but as supercars go, unless you flip it into full Godzilla mode, it's pretty manageable. So, you know, in that respect, not bad as a daily driver candidate, at least in the supercar genre. Now, what I don't like about it is every time you start the car, you get to I also don't like that every time you start. I don't like the constant weather warnings from the infotainment system. It drives me nuts. I got them 5-10 minutes ago. Every time you turn the car off and start the car again, it resets everything. So even if you got the weather warnings from the infotainment system, 10 minutes ago, you turn the car off, you go out and do something, you come back in, turn the car back on, it forgets everything. It has no short-term memory. It has no long-term memory. It has no memory at all. Now that I've spent a decent amount of time inside the GT-R, let's talk about the interior. The GT-R's infotainment system is a Nissan setup, and compared with industry leaders, it isn't all that great. You have both a touchscreen and a knob and buttons interface. Stuff like audio, navigation, and Bluetooth device pairing work, but the system is somewhat clunky. You can, of course, fall back on Apple CarPlay. Stack the GT-R's infotainment up against other supercars with their minimal interfaces and tiny screens, and Nissan's offerings seems lavish. The GT-R's interior is fairly minimalistic, but unlike other supercars, it isn't cramped. There's plenty of room to stretch out, at least for the driver and the front seat passenger.
The GT-R's interior does, however, have something of a split personality. Some of the materials are quite premium and even beautiful. On the other hand, if you look too closely, you can see things like carpet on the doors and plastic on the dashboard. The GT-R's interior is actually a really pleasant place to spend time, but if you're looking for some of the luxury appointments that you're going to get from the legendary supercar brands, they're just not here.
What's up?
Gentlemen, it's been a long time.
Oh, all right.
Do you have room back there, AJ?
I've got enough room to survive.
You got leg room?
I got
No leg room, but I'm
You got
here.
leg room? I see you are getting to know your knees a lot better, though, than you
This
might
is
have
actually
been
how
otherwise.
good a friend I am to AJ so that he doesn't have his knees in his chest. This is not a road trip car.
It's not. You know, this is ironic, though, because it is a GT car, and the function of a GT car, right, is supposed to be to go on long road trips and drive really fast. That's the whole point.
The name itself.
The name itself, right? Now, the function of supercars is not to go on long road trips.
It's accurate too.
You know, so this is what I say. This is why I say I think this is the GT car that kind of got drafted into being a supercar. Actually, it turns out being it's a pretty dang good supercar. I mean, there's a lot of supercars that are like way less comfortable than this.
Do you think you could see this being an everyday supercar for yourself if you could afford it?
Yes, the answer is yes. This would be a terrific everyday supercar. The big drawback I think here is that it isn't that comfortable. It can't be that comfortable for you, right? Is it okay? I mean, in terms of the ride. I don't mean in terms of the
it's
seating
like
space. I mean, in
the
terms of
ride is bumpy. I mean, you talked about how the suspension was pretty stiff in comfort mode earlier.
Yeah.
I feel like you get the brunt of the stiffness back here for sure. Yeah. But like the seats are comfortable.
All right, so what are you guys thinking? You think it's, you know, seating capacity is pretty terrible, right?
Seating capacity, this is a two-person car, no matter what they call
And
it.
it has to be, and it can't be a tall. I mean, you could go all the way back and you'd still not have a lot of leg room.
I've been in some pretty small back seats and pretty like unmanageable back seats. And as far as like tiny back seats goes, this is not the worst. Like it could be way worse than this.
Okay, so that's the end of my day with the Nissan GT-R Nismo. It is a staggeringly fun car to drive, but let's answer the question, is it a great everyday supercar? Well, let's talk about comfort first. It wasn't that comfortable to me, except when it was going down the highway in a straight line, but my passengers, who I took along for a joyride, thought it was okay, even though they were tall guys, so we'll give it a thumbs up there. Fuel economy is terrible. 18 miles per gallon is what they claim as a combined number, but we were getting something like 11. Now, how about seating capacity? Well, I think it's okay for somebody in the front seat, but if you put a tall guy in the back seat or even a normal-sized adult, it's going to be very cozy. So a bit of a problem there, but the trade-off is that you get a really big trunk. So for storage, we got 2 bags of groceries, 2 cases of bubbly water, and a chainsaw from Home Depot back there, and still had room for some camera equipment. So you just don't get that in supercars, nowhere, no how. I mean, that's fantastic. So is Nissan right? Is this a great everyday supercar? It is absolutely a great everyday supercar, probably the greatest everyday supercar. I don't really see any clear competition out there. This one is a winner.